an unusual lizard with an inimitable smile, an aggressive and very poisonous mollusk, an unpretentious eagle with a rich diet, an uncontrollable wolf dog, and much more. In this episode, you'll see the rarest, the most dangerous, and the most surprising animals. Before we get on to the basic part of our episode, I suggest that we have a look at the photo of an extremely unusual creature. If the comments of the author are to be believed, we have a rather dangerous hybrid in front of us that came into being due to crossing between a frog and some predatory deepwater fish. It's not clear why, but the creature has learned to explode and it booms each time it's in danger. Firstly, it's not comfortable for studying, as every mistake leads scientists to grow and explore a new creature. Secondly, this explosion is dangerous for people. So an explorer without necessary defense can be exposed to unpleasant burns. In any case, all of this is only rumors. There are no confirmations. What does it seem to you? Can such an explosive hybrid exist in reality? Toe-headed agama. This is what our next creature is called. Fortunately for scientists, it doesn't pose a risk of accidental explosion. This lizard grows up to 4.3 inches long and weighs about 1.4 ounces. Its appearance is surprising despite small dimensions. It's interesting. I get the impression that this guest came to us from another planet. Actually, these are rare feelings. In reality, the toe-headed agama inhabits deserts and semi-deserts from South Russia to Iran and China. It's extremely difficult to live in such conditions. However, the reptile succeeds in doing so. Moreover, it does not hide itself from the scorching sun. It tolerates it, going hunting insects just in the middle of the day. Needless to say, your willpower alone will not help you survive. That's why in the course of evolution, the lizard acquired several tricks. Firstly, it can run very fast. As we know, you won't be hit in the face if you're born to run. Besides the point, its camouflage is also useful. However excellently the toad-headed agama may escape problems, such things happen that it gets into trouble. This is the very moment when the animal starts to realize Plan B. The crawler maximum opens its maw and shows to the whole world how terrible it is. Naturally, inexperienced predators are at a loss when they deal with it. No other animal was characterized with anything similar. They activate their self-preservation instinct, whereas the enemy decides to withdraw. When modern scientists first learned about this feature, they thought that these creatures also like to open their maw to grab their brethren to attract the opposite sex. Except that in the course of time, it turned out that they don't do this in front of their brothers and sisters. They communicate through the diametrically opposite place, their tail, twisting and untwisting, trampling and posing. After seeing these reptiles communicating, you may think that they call out the enemy for a dancing battle. Tiger eagle. Remember these two words. This is exactly how this predatory bird species from the owl family is called that's widely spread on the territory of both Americas. It's so that you understand at once how dangerous this flying creature is. They notice that it can prey on more than 500 species of different animals. It's far from everybody that can resist to this eagle. Though if you have a peep at the root of the problem, this won't seem to you as something extraordinarily unique. After all, we can see a big representative in the whole of the New World and the third one on the planet as a whole. This bird was first discovered on the territory of Virginia. Its wingspan can reach up to 5 feet, whereas the length of the body can vary from 1.5 to a little more than 2 feet. The bird weighs from 2.2 pounds to 4.4 pounds. What do I tell you this for? So that it would be easier for you to understand how large and dangerous the tiger owl can overpower. After all, they say it's able to carry away a prey up to 2 to 3 times heavier than its own weight. As for smaller creatures, it swallows them whole. The main weapon of this feathered creature is its long claws. The eagle, thrusting them into the victim, does not leave a single chance for the victim to escape. The most dreadful thing is that the future prey learns of its fortune at the 11th hour. As well as other eagles, this bird emits no sound while flying. It discovers its prey, it flies to the enemy, and it thrusts its claws into it. This is the hunting plan of our guest. This sounds simple. The bird honed it to such perfection that practically no point ever fails. It's exactly why it manages to overpower 500 animal species. It's interesting that the tiger eagle can hunt even its brethren. Those are mostly defenseless ducks that receive most, as well as partridges and pheasants. But if they don't exist, the eagle attacks ravens, grouses, and pelicans. If anything, this is not to mention dozens of other birds that are also threatened. However, that eagle is not the only bird you're worth being frightened of. In reality, there are many such birds. Today, I'd like to talk about the northern gannet. For those who didn't know, this is a big seabird spread in the northern Atlantic. Our guest didn't want to develop in different directions. Instead of that, it preferred to maximally boost its skills. We can say that this played into its hands. In terms of its conservation status, the northern gannet is less disturbing now. What's more, it can easily hunt fish. These feathered creatures are born to dive. They go underwater at a speed of 60+ miles per hour and furiously grab their prey. However agile the fish may be, it's very difficult to escape its attack. Things happen that this bird dives into water so quickly that it even breaks its wings. This plump bird grows up to 3.3 feet long with a wingspan of up to 6 feet. It weighs from 4.5 to almost 8 pounds. You can think that a bird with such dimensions is fit for flying, that the gannet can fly in the sky like other birds. It can look for enemies and attack them noiselessly and accurately. In reality, the gannet sticks to this plan sometimes. In the majority of cases, they act more decisively. The flying muscles of the feathered creatures are half as small as those of birds of a comparable size. That's why they wait for the wind to blow. They put their utmost efforts to tear apart the water surface. They say that these creatures are so crazy about hunting that they can leave behind more than 185 miles from their nesting place. As for fishing, they usually go fishing in flocks of up to 1,000 specimens. Just imagine how creepy and unusual this looks in real life. It's lucky that Mother Nature presented to these predators a robust neck and a special bone plate at the base of the beak. Otherwise, they would be finally broken within a couple of years with such a hunting style. Edible frog. Yes, I'm talking exactly about the frog that you could have heard of in the context of France. By the way, did you know that people crossed 2 separate species? Or is everything not so simple here as it seems to be at the first glance? Don't worry, we'll find that out. So we start from the fact that an edible frog is a species of frogs that came into being due to crossing the pool frog and the marsh frog no less than 5,000 years ago. The name of our guest is related to a popular French dish. The maximum length of the body is not higher than 4 inches, whereas its representatives are widely spread from the north of the Norwegian to the south of the Mediterranean. In these places, the edible frog prefers creeks, marshes, ponds, backwaters, as well as rivers with a slow stream. This frog leads a night way of life. However hard it may suffer, it doesn't succeed in hiding from people. In the meantime, we came down to the point of their appearance. After hearing of the essence of our guest, didn't you come up with thoughts that it was created by people purely for the sake of profit? After all, this is exactly what all the factors are indicative of. You'll be surprised, it's not the case in reality. It turns out that the marsh and the pool frogs came to this unusual love on their own, without the participation of a man. As I've already told, their history is more than 5,000 years old, and they're not going to stop on that. Interestingly, the reproduction of these creatures also deserves your attention. Firstly, they are extremely fruitful. A female can lay up to 4,000 eggs at a time. Secondly, if we cross edible frogs with each other, we'll have a surprise at the output. We'll see tadpoles of the pool and marsh frogs, but not edible ones. This way, sooner or later, the population of the edible frog can turn into a mixed group of parental species. It's the coexistence that saves these jumpers that are not going to pass one another. Cone snail. Don't worry, you haven't switched the video to a geometry lesson. This is how a species of the gastropods from the family of cone snails is called. They live in shells approximately 6.5 inches long. They're spread from the Red Sea to the Japanese islands, including the area of water in India, Australia, and the Philippines. This is no type of a shell that you'll want to take home after resting. The thing is that its victims glue their fins within minutes. The venom of this gastropod is one of the most poisonous on the planet. To murder a person, the mollusk will need some milligrams of the venom for every 2 pounds of weight. In a nutshell, it's a piece of cake to overpower somebody. For the process to succeed, the cone snail uses a lingual ribbon. This is an interesting organ that scraps and breaks the food from mollusks. Other snails usually lick stones with this ribbon and scavenge this bottom litter. However, our guests consider that he's superior to all this. This is exactly why it made a real murdering weapon with the help of a simple lingual ribbon. It goes without saying that you're not very likely to kill someone big and massive with this harpoon. As for a middle or small-sized fish, it's quite possible. The cone snail finds enemies with the aid of a special sense body, forces them on its harpoon, and injects venom. A couple of moments pass and the paralyzed fish will be sucked into the bottomless stomach of this psyche. Don't be in a hurry to vote on the elimination of this progeny. In reality, it can be extremely useful for people. On the basis of its toxin, scientists are working out a medicine against diabetes. These are Africanized bees, on which basis you're not likely to invent something useful. They're exactly those that I would be happy to eliminate. You can see the result of an unsuccessful experiment that broke free and invaded half of America. Now you'll learn how that happened and what's bad about that. Everything started from the fact that usual European bees were not doing well in the South American climate. Country needed a new, more robust, and stronger breed. Those were the most experienced experts that assumed this work. They considered the Africanized bees to be clues to the victory of their plan. It was supposed that if we had crossed them with the local subspecies, sturdy, powerful, and cool bees would have come into being. Explorers understood that the insects will be as hot as the scorching sands of their native Sahara. Despite that, they agreed to continue the experiment. The result complied with the expectations, but this was not what was needed. People planned to continue studying bees, looking for other possible couples, when suddenly something terrible happened. One of the workers of the center where research took place either casually or specially removed obstacles and released those under experiment. Just within a day, dozens of families left their cramped beehives and dispersed in an unknown direction. There was no panic. People thought that the bees would not be able to adapt to new conditions and die soon. However, everything happened the exact opposite. They did not only survive, but they started to dominate, conquer one territory after another. Their aggressive manners had no limits, whereas other insects fell under the oppression without a single chance. The secret of belligerence of these hybrids lies in their hard work. The killer bees extract the pollen much more actively than other subspecies. Their eggs grow quicker, whereas adult specimens are more robust and sturdier. Infections that are deadly for usual insects do not influence Africanized killer bees. People are still trying to find a solution to this global problem, but it's still not the case. Liger. Something hints me to the fact that the majority of you have not even thought that the hybrid between a lion and a tigress would have been possible. It feels like this is something from fantasy, but no, the natural forces are capable of such things. The liger is a hybrid between a lion and a tigress. Thus, its parents relate to the same biological genus of panthers, but to different species. It seems to me that it'll be excessive to describe the power of these creatures. Everybody understands that they take the best from the former and latter. Lions are the strength of pride, the ability to work together. Tigers are provided with tactics and skills of the single killer. We bring these parameters together and get a liger. Another feature of our guest lies in the fact that liger females can give offspring. Someone may think that there's nothing unusual in it. In fact, it's not the case. This peculiarity is not indicative of hybrids. In spite of the appearance of these creatures, it's hardly possible to encounter them in nature. The chances of such mating are paltry. At the moment, there are just dozens of these fine creatures in the world. Wolf dog. This is what another, no less surprising hybrid is called. As you can understand by its name, this is a mixture of a wolf and a dog. We could not say something special about ligers. They took the best from their parents. As for wolf dogs, on the contrary, they are extremely unstable. Yes, the most courageous people agree to even domesticate these creatures and bring them up at home. Take this from me, it's an adventure that you have to look for. It's characteristic of the wolf dog to take extreme measures. This creature can be both very true and obedient, like a dog, or take a wild and reserved character from the wolf. However hard these selectionists may try, they cannot control that. This is exactly why the chances are so great to get this insane or skittish creature. We have enough hybrids. What about the most powerful, biggest, and strongest animals? Let's talk about them. And this is how I personally see the real record holder in terms of strength if it lived in our time. I'm talking about Samson, a real horse who lived in the 19th century. I'm sure that if such a horse were born in our time, then with the help of genetics and bioengineering, scientists would be able to get it to such size. As for Samson himself, he lived in England where he amazed literally everyone. This is the heaviest and tallest horse of all time. His height was almost 7.2 feet, and his weight was more than 1.5 tons. I have no doubt that this particular horse was the strongest. Why is this so? I'll tell you later. Belgian Draft. In the meantime, let's take a look at this draft horse breed. If Samson is the strongest specific horse, then in this case the whole breed can boast of power. Whoever you take, any adult Belgian Draft is very strong, because this is the breed that scientists consider to be the strongest in the world. It's not surprising because Belgian Draft horses are very massive. Their hooves are as big as the body of a small horse. Their height starts from 5.4 feet, and some of them even reach 6.8 feet in height. This was the case with a horse named Big Jake, the former modern world record holder in terms of size. But size alone doesn't matter. It's the inborn natural strength that matters. And Belgian draft horses have plenty of it. These ungulate strong creatures can do wonders. For example, they can pull very heavy logs or work as a plow. The Belgian draft horse can also be used as a farm tractor. You can even play tug-of-war with it. However, for you, this will have to find 20 to 30 more people, and you'll still lose. This strong animal will pull the rope to its side without much difficulty. 30 people for a Belgian draft are nothing, because these giants are able to pull even multi-ton loads. However, now Belgian draft horses are no longer used so much in the fields. Modern Belgian draft horses are mainly used at shows and as walking horses. In agriculture, machines are more often used. Let's return to our Samson. Called him the strongest for a reason, because this horse belonged to a breed called the Shire. The Shire is probably the only horse breed in the world that can compete with the Belgian draft in terms of strength. In fact, in some respects, the Shire is even stronger. And given Samson's size, I'm sure he was stronger than even any Belgian draft. As for the breed itself, Shires are the largest horses in the world. Their height is comparable to that of an adult, and their weight is mind-blowing. A ton for a Shire is quite a common weight, and some of these British draft horses can weigh up to 3,970 pounds. How much is that? That's more than the average weight of a hippo. As in the case of Belgian draft horses, pulling is the Shire's middle name. Need to pull, drag, move, or carry something? The British strong giant will do it without too much trouble. That is, if it's something not too huge. Shires make efforts only when pulling barges and vessels. Yes, they can do that, and they do it perfectly. It can't be otherwise. The ancestors of Shires are fighting knights' horses, which in turn were the descendants of the Roman conquerors. Shires simply have no right to be weaklings and spoil such a glorious family. Otherwise, their powerful, hoofed ancestors would not forgive them. It's not easy to find horses that could do things like Belgian draft horses and Shires, but it's even harder to find the horses discussed next. And no, they're not that strong, they're simply rare. So rare, in fact, that there may soon be none left at all. Let's take a look at them. According to rough estimates, there are currently about 60 million horses in the world. Among them, there are only 100 Gallicino horses. No, actually, I exaggerated a bit. There are even less than 100 of them. No wonder this particular breed is called the rarest on the entire planet. I'm talking about purebred Galicinos. And unfortunately, the number will only decrease because most of them are not able to reproduce. This means that the Galicino as a breed may disappear in the near future. Only half hybrids and all kinds of crossbreeds will remain. It's a pity because the Galicino is a very beautiful breed. These are not giant Shires and Belgian draft horses, which one might think can knock down the wall of a building with a kick of a hoof. These are graceful horses that weigh about 660 pounds and reach 4.2 feet in height. For this reason, it's easy to climb on them for a ride or even a race. In general, the Galicino is good at everything. It's versatile, obedient, and easy to train, so it can be used in any field. Soraya. Things are a little better for this breed, which originates from Portugal. The breeders didn't complicate matters unnecessarily. The breed originated in Soraya River Basin, which is why the breed got its name. This happened, by the way, a very, very long time ago. The Soraya is one of the oldest horse breeds in the world, and its roots are difficult to trace. About 200 purebred horses of this breed remain on the planet, making the Soraya an incredibly valuable breed, so much so that it's even called a treasure from the heart of Portugal. Horse fans say that these ungulates are so scarce that when you encounter a Soraya, you feel as if you've actually found an ancient treasure. The Soraya is not only rare, but also a very tenacious and resilient breed. For centuries, farmers have used them for hard work in the fields where they plowed and worked as hard as they could. The Soraya is not a horse that will require special treatment. This horse is unpretentious, very hardy, and ready to work for the benefit of people. It's only a pity that the breed is small in number, but scientists are working as hard as the Soraya itself. They're working to protect these horses from dangers and gradually restore the population. How much do you think one Soraya can cost? What price would you give it considering all those skills, resilience, the breed's long history, and rarity? Write in the comments. And I'll tell you about the most expensive horses in history, which cost tens and even hundreds of millions of dollars. They're indeed such unique horses. It's no secret that racehorses are highly valued. Rich people are ready to give millions of dollars for the best horse to win with at the races, and their bets have no limits. That's what it seems when you look at the amount of money Frankel was valued at. $200 million. Yes, $200 million. In theory, this makes Frankel not only the most expensive horse in history, but also the most expensive animal in all time in general. Although it should be clarified that $200 million is not the price paid for the horse, but the value at which he was valued in his prime. It's roughly the same way soccer players are valued. For example, if Kylian Mbappe is valued at 250 million euros, it won't make him the most expensive soccer player of all time until a transfer deal is done. The price of Frankel, though insane, is understandable for racing fans. Out of 14 races, he won all 14. Moreover, Frankel won important and difficult races. At one of them, he even beat his experienced rivals in front of Queen Elizabeth II. Frankel was very confident in breaking away from his pursuers, and at the peak of his career, he got the highest rating among all racehorses. The next horse is the record holder for the price already in terms of the deal that took place. I'm talking about a horse named Fusaichi Pegasus. At his peak, he was valued at $70 million and was sold for exactly that price. No one has outbid him yet. If we return to the topic of soccer, Fusaichi is cool even in comparison with the modern soccer market. Now, for such amount of money, one can buy a good prospect. Fusaichi himself was also not a prospect during his early career and fully met people's expectations. Yes, his stats were not as good as Frankel's, and he lost a couple of races, but he rode gracefully and quickly, which drove the rich people crazy. Besides, Fusaichi was an insanely profitable investment. They sold him for $70 million, but bought him for only $4 million. That's quite a price growth, isn't it? Fusaichi has always been a star of the horse racing world, and even this year he reminded of himself. However, in a sad way, in May of this year, the record holder was gone. Horses are very big creatures, but there are much bigger animals, and more interestingly, much fatter animals. Yossi. Everyone knows that the African bush elephant is the largest land animal in the world. Usually these giants grow up to 20 to 23 feet in length, 10 to 13 feet in height, and weigh up to 3 to 5 tons. There are some incredible exceptions. For example, an elephant shot in Angola in 1974, its weight was 12.2 tons. Could be called a fat elephant, but that title's already been secured by Yossi, the world's fattest elephant at the moment. He's also often called the world's largest elephant. He lives in captivity in a zoo in Israel. At a height of 12.4 feet, he weighs no less than 7 tons. This isn't the limit for the African bush elephant, but the zoo staff says that the fat guy has trouble squeezing through the gates and has problems moving around. It's generally accepted that fat ones are kind, but Yossi is clearly not that case. For example, in 2007, he attacked a 46-year-old elephant, which led to her death. The elephant was placed under temporary arrest after that. The scary thing about this story is that the elephantine was a kind of spouse for Yossi. She gave birth to 20 elephants from him. Shaky. Next up is a giraffe. While the elephant is the largest land animal in the world, the giraffe is the tallest one. These creatures tend to be slim and elegant. It's hard to imagine a fat giraffe, but there are some. For example, the female Shaky. At 22 feet tall, she weighs 5,070 pounds. This is much more than the norm because even the heaviest female giraffes rarely weigh more than 2,645 pounds. Shaky has been seen in the wild just a few times, but eyewitnesses have noted that they've been able to see her speed. According to them, she runs faster than her congeners. Uncle Fatty. A male macaque named Uncle Fatty from Thailand became famous in 2017 when authorities became interested in his appearance and weight. Then Uncle Fatty settled in one of Bangkok's markets and began to eat everything in a row. The macaque was not squeamish about unhealthy treats from tourists. Uncle Fatty rarely moved, and this led to the fact that by the age of 20, he's reached the mark of 57 to 60 pounds. Doesn't take a genius to realize that's much higher than the norm. The authorities and many locals could not bear to see such a sight. Though the macaque looked funny, the excessive weight threatened his health. So Uncle Fatty was sent to a farm, where he was put on a special diet: green vegetables, fruit with low sugar content, and water. 3 months later, the animal's veterinarian reported that his patient's stomach was no longer dragging on the ground while walking. The macaque has managed to lose 13 pounds. Cassie. Few animals are honored to get into the Guinness Book of World Records, but Cassie the Border Collie dog did it. It's not much of an achievement, though, the world's fattest dog. At the maximum, Cassie weighed 128 pounds, about 3 times the norm for dogs of this breed. From the photos, you can clearly see the difference between a Border Collie with a normal weight and the record holder. Many people think that fat pets are funny and cute. I would only partially agree. Chubby pets are indeed adorable, but overfed pets are painful to look at. Cassie ate everything from deep-fried fish to candy to chips and fast food. This led to the fact that it became not only difficult for the dog to move, but even to breathe. The dog was also at risk for many very dangerous diseases. Fortunately, Cassie eventually got help. She was placed in a shelter where she was put on a strict diet and taken into full custody. Barsik. Since there was a dog, I should also show you a cat, or rather one of the fattest cats on the planet. The cat named Barsik comes from New York, and a few years ago, he became an internet star when everyone became aware of his size. The animal's weight at the time was 40.7 pounds. That's 24 to 29 pounds above the norm. Like Cassie, the cat was given to a shelter. But because of its phenomenal size, Barsik could not fit into any of the cages, so they had to build a separate corner in the office for him. The shelter took care of Barsik thoroughly. First of all, they formed a new dietary regime. The cat began to eat often but in small portions. Soon the cat, who's gotten in shape a little, was taken to her home by one of the shelter's volunteers. Siberian tiger. And here are the distant relatives of chubby Barsik, and they're chubby too, though more likely they're full-fledged fat guys. These Siberian tigers caused a furor when a few years ago, videos and photos of them appeared on the internet. The tigers inhabiting the Chinese city of Harbin disturbed the animal rights activists who saw clear signs of serious obesity in the striped predators. Difficult to argue with that. Outwardly, these fat guys hardly look like they're ready to deal with any prey. They're more likely to deal with some fast food or the drone that so annoyingly films them. Even though these tigers look very big and fat, according to wildlife officials, it's okay. As they said, the tigers gained weight for the winter to have fat reserve and should get in shape in the spring without any diet. Maybe that's what happened. Maybe there's nothing wrong with their story at all. After all, Siberian tigers live in a cold climate, so extra fat can be a great way to survive frost. Holly. Bears are large creatures themselves. Brown bears, for example, weigh between 176 and 882 pounds. But it's very rare to see a very heavy and fat bear. It's even rarer to see the real record holders, like Holly, for example. In 2019, she was recognized as the fattest bear on the entire planet. The fat lady gained about 805 pounds, which was almost entirely represented by fat and fur. Holly was identified as the winner of the annual Fat Bear Week contest held at Katmai National Park and Preserve in Alaska. The female bear outperformed 11 competitors in the fight for such an unusual title. But in 2020, it was Holly who got outperformed. It did a bear named 747, so he was named after the Boeing 747, and not coincidentally because the bear is also huge, like the airliner. He's much fatter than Holly and is estimated that he weighs 1,400 pounds. Such bears are extremely rare, which makes 747 a unique individual. Thumbelina. Who do you think of when you hear the word Thumbelina? Probably of the tiny and kind girl from the fairy tale, right? It's unlikely that by Thumbelina you imagine the squirrel, but that's her name. It's one of the fattest squirrels on the planet. The cute creature was found in a nest in a New York City apartment. Apparently, Thumbelina made her way there after her first nest was destroyed due to construction work that was going on nearby. Christina and Michael, who were in charge of animal rescue, rescued the squirrel from the trouble. Thumbelina turned out to be pregnant. She soon gave birth to squirrels, but Christina and Michael decided to let them go into the wild. Thumbelina herself was not adapted to the wilderness, so Christina and Michael kept her. In her new family, the squirrel gained weight and received care and love. Thumbelina spent time with the couple, lying on the couch, watching TV, and eating her favorite foods. Oshine. And here's one that's fatter and bigger than the obese squirrel. Oshine is a female orangutan. For a long time, she lived in a family as an exotic pet. The owners were very fond of Oshine and made sure she never went hungry. They fed the female with everything from regular food to junk food like chips, candy, marmalade, jam, and so on. As a result, by the age of 13, Oshine had developed a serious form of obesity. The female orangutan fattened up to 220 pounds, which of course exceeded all permissible norms. Usually it happens that volunteers find out about such stories, come to the house, and take the overfed animal to put it on a diet. But in this case, the owners themselves realized that they'd screwed up and harmed the pet. So they gave her to a British animal rescue center on their own. There, they put Oshine on a diet, and it worked. Within 2 years, Oshine lost 44 pounds and began to feel much better. Hedgehog. Meet Arbuckle, the hedgehog. He's probably the fattest of all its congeners. He was found in Scotland several years ago. This chubby, prickly creature weighed 7.2 pounds, almost 4 times the normal weight. The cute and funny hedgehog was so overfed that he couldn't even curl up into a ball and could hardly move on his paws. As in the case of Oshine, Arbuckle was helped. He was transferred to a pet protection organization where the fatty was prescribed a strict diet and regular exercise. Pancho. A chubby sea lion named Pancho lives in Cabo San Lucas, Mexico. Locals call him the king of sea lions and even the sea lord. And this is not surprising given the size of this animal. Supposedly, Pancho is the fattest sea lion in the region, and this is taking into account that other local sea lions in general gain weight quickly and are well fed. But Pancho has surpassed them all in terms of size because he's figured out a simple way to get fish. Local fishermen often feed small fish to marine animals that pass by, and unlike his congeners, Pancho doesn't wait for a fish to be thrown to him. He climbs onto the boats himself and begs for food. In return, he entertains fishermen and sailors, smiles, and cheers everyone up. Penguins. Penguins are well-fed creatures themselves. It couldn't be otherwise because they have to survive in extremely low temperatures. Recently, however, more and more obese and fat penguins have appeared. The unusual animals have interested scientists. So far, they don't know what causes the obesity of these wild Antarctic birds. Chubby penguins can also be found in zoos, but they're probably just overfed. As for the wild penguins, their size remains a mystery. But one thing is clear, these creatures should pull themselves together, get on the treadmill, and run a little. Otherwise, they won't escape seals and leopard seals in Antarctica. Just over 20 inches long and weighing about 22 pounds, the honey badger is not a large animal at all. But this doesn't prevent it from being the most aggressive animal in the world. Many experts and even the Guinness Book of World Records agrees with this. Once the honey badger was included in it with the status of the most fearless animal on the planet. There's some truth in this. Honey badgers are not just fearless and aggressive, they're literally thuggish. They don't care about their size. As predators, they're willing to fight anyone at all. They can pounce on humans, they can attack a leopard so violently that the big spotted cat will run away like a misbehaving kitten. They may attack a lion and sometimes even a small lion's pride. Honey badgers are not afraid even of extremely dangerous and venomous snakes. They eat them as a snack. In Africa, the native land of the honey badger, all animals are afraid of it. They know how crazy this badger is and try not to mess with it. To defeat the honey badger is a very difficult task even for top predators. Firstly, it has extremely thick skin. Even sharp claws and teeth of lions and leopards can't always penetrate it. Secondly, the honey badger is uniquely immune to snake bites. The bitten honey badger doesn't die, but falls into a coma for a couple of hours, but then wakes up and goes on to take revenge on some black mamba or simply to kick the first animal it catches sight of. That's all, guys. Which animal do you personally consider to be the most aggressive in the world? Let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching, and see you later.